Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, Treasure Hunters and Coin Collectors. You're watching the channel where we explore the hidden value of the coins you might have sitting in your pocket or tucked away in an old drawer. Today, we're diving deep into a piece of American change that millions have handled but few truly appreciate, the 1981 Lincoln penny. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny. But as you'll soon discover, this little copper coin can hold more history, mystery, and potential value than you ever imagined. So stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll know why this coin is so special, and how one could be worth a small fortune. Let's begin by taking a step back in time to the year 1981. Ronald Reagan was about to become president, MTV hadn't even launched yet, and across the United States, billions of 1-cent coins were being produced by the U.S. Mint. On the surface, it looked like just another year for the humble penny, but in the world of numismatics, that is, coin collecting, 1981 turned out to be anything but ordinary. The Lincoln penny itself has been a staple of American currency since 1909, when it was first minted to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. That made it the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Over the years, the design evolved, but Lincoln's profile remained a constant symbol of honesty, strength, and unity. Now, by 1981, the Lincoln penny was still being struck with his familiar bust on the front, or obverse, side of the coin. Just behind Lincoln, the word Liberty sits on the left, while the year 1981 is clearly marked on the right. And directly above, in bold capital letters, the phrase, "In God We Trust," reminds us of the coin's patriotic roots. But here's where it gets interesting. 1981 was one of the final years that the penny was made primarily out of copper. Starting in 1982, the mint began transitioning to a copper-coated zinc composition because the cost of copper had become too high. That means that 1981 was the last full year of solid copper Lincoln pennies. This makes it historically significant and adds a layer of collectability. Now let's talk about mint marks. If you look just below the year on a 1981 penny, you might see a small letter, either a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco, or sometimes nothing at all, which means it was minted in Philadelphia. Each mint mark tells us where the coin was struck, and that can have a big effect on its value to collectors. The Denver and Philadelphia mint pennies were produced in massive quantities, and most of them are very common. However, the San Francisco Mint issued proof coins, highly detailed, mirror-finished versions made specifically for collectors. These proof coins were not intended for general circulation and were struck with extra care, giving them a stunning shine and sharp design. But beyond the proof coins, what really drives up the value of a 1981 Lincoln penny is its condition and any unusual features it might have. Coins in mint state condition, meaning they have never been circulated and still look brand new, are always more valuable. If your penny has no scratches, no discoloration, and retains its original luster, you could be holding something much more than 1 cent. Then there are error coins. These are coins that have minting mistakes like double strikes, off-center images, die cracks, or even missing letters. Error coins are prized in the collector world because they are rare, unique, and often overlooked. A small minting error can turn an ordinary penny into a rare gem worth hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars. But here's something that most people don't realize. There are some varieties of the 1981 Lincoln penny with extremely sharp details, deep cameo contrast in the proof strikes, or small but important differences in the lettering or the rim that make them exceptionally rare. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for the finest examples of these coins. In fact, some of these pennies have been sold at major coin auctions for astonishing amounts. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. One particular 1981 Lincoln penny, because of its flawless condition and rare features, sold for an unbelievable price of $44,000. That's right, $44,000 for a 1-cent coin. It's the kind of story that turns ordinary collectors into passionate seekers, and casual change checkers into serious treasure hunters. So what can you do? Start by checking your change jars, your old coin albums, or even that dusty box in the attic. Look closely at your 1981 pennies. Examine the mint mark, check for any unusual features, and most importantly, assess the condition. Even if your coin isn't worth thousands, it could still be a valuable addition to your collection, or a first step into the exciting world of numismatics. Today's video might just change the way you see that tiny piece of copper. Because tucked away in drawers, old jars, or maybe even in your own pocket, there's a coin that could be hiding a big surprise. We're talking about the United States Lincoln penny from the year 1973. Now, don't be fooled by its small size. This 1-cent coin carries a huge story. In fact, the 1973 Lincoln penny has some versions that are so rare and so desirable to collectors that they've sold for eye-popping amounts of money. Let's take a journey into the world of this iconic coin and uncover what makes it so special, what to look out for, and how one ordinary-looking penny turned out to be worth a small fortune. The Lincoln penny has been in circulation since 1909, introduced to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. That made it the first American coin to feature a real historical figure instead of the usual symbolic images. Over the decades, it has become one of the most collected and recognized coins in the world. Fast forward to the year 1973. The United States was going through a time of change. The Vietnam War was coming to an end, Watergate was beginning to shake the foundations of trust in government, and inflation was rising. Despite all the political tension, the U.S. Mint kept up with its production of the familiar Lincoln cent, making millions upon millions of them. At first glance, the 1973 penny looks just like many others. On the front of the coin is Abraham Lincoln's profile, facing right. The words, "In God We Trust," arch above his head, while the word "Liberty" rests to his left. Just beside Lincoln's shoulder is the date, 1973. And depending on where it was minted, you may find a tiny letter just beneath the date. This letter is called a mint mark. If you see a small D, your coin was minted in Denver. If there's no letter at all, it came from Philadelphia. And if you spot an S, you've got a coin from the San Francisco Mint, which primarily produced proof coins that year, specially made for collectors with extra detail and shine. But here's where things get exciting. While billions of these coins were made for circulation, not all of them were created equal. Some 1973 Lincoln pennies have unique characteristics, and it's these details that can turn a coin from ordinary to extraordinary. Let's start with the condition. A coin that has never been used in day-to-day transactions, known as uncirculated or mint state, is much more valuable. These coins still retain their original luster, sharp details, and show no signs of wear. Collectors go crazy for coins that look brand new, even after 50 years. Then there are proof coins. These were struck using specially prepared dies and planchets, resulting in a mirror-like surface and incredibly sharp details. If you have a 1973 S-proof penny, especially one with deep cameo contrast, you might be holding something special, but the real treasure lies in coins with rare errors or unusual varieties. These mistakes can include things like double dies, where parts of the design appear to be doubled, or off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or coins with missing elements. One of the most famous errors is the double die obverse, where Lincoln's face or the lettering looks double due to a minting mishap. Collectors are always hunting for these rare varieties because they are so hard to find. They're often missed during regular circulation, which means they can remain hidden for years until someone like you finds one. And let's not forget about the sharp-eyed collectors who notice subtle differences in the size of the lettering, the thickness of the date, or the exact positioning of the mint mark. These details might seem small, but in the world of coin collecting, small variations can mean big money. So how do you know if your 1973 penny is valuable? Start by checking the mint mark and condition. Use a magnifying glass to look for doubling or signs of errors. If the coin looks unusually perfect, it might be a high-grade uncirculated specimen. If it has proof-like qualities and came from the San Francisco Mint, that's another strong sign. Of course, the best way to confirm the value is to have it examined by a professional coin grading service. They can authenticate it, assign it a grade, and give you an official evaluation. Now, the question you've all been waiting for: what's the real value of a rare 1973 Lincoln penny? Well, while most of them are still worth just a cent, a handful of rare examples in flawless condition or with significant mint errors have shocked collectors at auctions. In one stunning case, a 1973 Lincoln penny, Because of its perfect preservation and rare attributes, sold for an unbelievable price of $48,000. Yes, you heard that right, $48,000 for a coin that many people would overlook. It's the perfect example of why coin collecting is not just a hobby, but a real treasure hunt. So, before you dismiss that old penny lying around your house, take a closer look. That tiny piece of metal might just change your life. Today's video, we're diving into the fascinating world of the 1979 Lincoln penny. What makes it valuable? What rare versions are out there? And why are coin collectors so eager to get their hands on certain pieces from this very year? Stick around, because by the end, you'll know exactly what to look for, and you won't believe how much one of these little copper coins has sold for. Let's start with the basics. The Lincoln penny has been a staple of American currency since 1909, featuring the iconic profile of President Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this coin made history by being the first American coin to feature a real person, not a symbol or a fictional figure. That alone makes it special. Now, fast forward to 1979. America was experiencing political change, economic shifts, and cultural transformations. Amid all of that, the U.S. Mint was still hard at work producing billions of coins to keep commerce moving. And among those coins was the 1979 Lincoln penny, made at 3 major minting facilities across the country. Here's where things start to get interesting. Depending on where your 1979 penny was made, it might have a small letter beneath the date. If there's no letter at all, your coin was minted in Philadelphia. If you see a small d, it came from Denver. And if it has an S, you've got a coin from the San Francisco Mint, which usually produced special proof coins for collectors. Now, most 1979 pennies you'll come across are common, they were mass-produced in the billions. But the real story lies in the rare variations, unusual minting errors, and high-grade examples that can make a coin extremely valuable. Let's talk about condition first. When a coin is brand new, straight from the mint, without any scratches, fading, or signs of wear, it's known as a mint state coin. These coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a flawless example. A 1979 Lincoln penny that's graded MS 67 or above becomes significantly more desirable, especially to serious collectors, but it doesn't stop there. You see, some 1979 Lincoln pennies were struck with errors that occurred during the minting process, errors that are rare and valuable today. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die. This happens when the coin is struck more than once with a slight misalignment, causing the design to appear doubled. You might see this doubling in the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or even the date itself. These errors are highly collectible because they are both uncommon and easy to identify with the naked eye or a magnifying glass. Another valuable error to look for is the off-center strike, where the design is pushed too far to one side of the coin. Or the broad strike, where the rim is missing due to a malfunction during minting. Even coins with missing letters, weak strikes, or repunched mint marks can carry significant value, especially if the rest of the coin is in excellent condition. If your 1979 penny has an S mint mark and appears unusually shiny with mirror-like fields, you might have a proof coin. These were not meant for circulation but were sold directly to collectors. A flawless 1979 S-proof penny, especially with what's called deep cameo contrast, can be worth far more than face value. And here's something else that adds to the intrigue: metal composition. While pennies were still mostly copper in 1979, the U.S. Mint was preparing for changes. In 1982, they would switch from a mostly copper coin to one made primarily of zinc. That makes these late 1970s copper pennies even more desirable for collectors who value that classic composition. So how do you know if your 1979 Lincoln penny is valuable? First, take a good look at the mint mark. Next, examine the coin under good lighting. Look for signs of doubling, odd shapes, or details that seem a bit off. Then assess the condition. The sharper the details, the better. If you think your coin could be special, you can always send it to a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. Once your coin is verified, its true value could surprise you. Most 1979 pennies are still worth just 1 cent, but not all. Some examples in pristine condition, or those with rare errors, have stunned the numismatic world by selling at auctions for truly jaw-dropping amounts. And now, here comes the moment you've been waiting for. Among the rarest of the 1979 Lincoln pennies, those in perfect condition with significant errors or remarkable visual appeal, one exceptional coin stood out. It went under the hammer at a prestigious auction and was sold for an astonishing sum of $46,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1-cent coin from 1979, smaller than a bottle cap and lighter than a paperclip, changed hands for the price of a luxury car. The next time you see an old penny in your change, don't dismiss it. That small copper coin could be your ticket to a massive payout. Grab a magnifying glass, do a little digging, and who knows, you might just uncover a hidden treasure in your very own collection. The 1982 Lincoln penny, yes, you heard that right. A coin that millions of people saw, used, and pocketed without a second thought might just be one of the most valuable coins you'll ever come across. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the story, mystery, and money behind the 1982 1-cent coin from the United States of America. Let's begin with why 1982 is such a turning point in the history of U.S. coinage. This wasn't just any random year in coin production, it was the year of a major shift. And it's this very change that made 1982 pennies so intriguing to collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters alike. So, what exactly happened in 1982? Well, prior to this year, pennies were made mostly of copper, 95% copper, to be exact. But copper prices were rising, and the cost to produce a penny was beginning to exceed its own face value. To solve this, the U.S. Mint decided to switch the penny's composition mid-year, replacing the expensive copper with a more affordable zinc core coated in copper. But here's where things get interesting: instead of stopping copper production completely and switching to zinc overnight, the transition happened gradually. That means that both copper and zinc pennies were minted in 1982, and they're virtually identical to the naked eye. But if you weigh them, everything changes. Copper pennies from 1982 weigh about 3.11 grams, while the new zinc pennies weigh only 2.5 grams. So with just a small scale, you can actually determine which one you have. But it gets even deeper. There were 7 different types of 1982 pennies made. Yes, 7, let's break them down. Copper coins with no mint mark, copper coins with a D, Denver mint mark, copper coins with a small date, zinc coins with no mint mark, zinc coins with a D, mint mark, zinc coins with a small date, and one very rare kind that wasn't even supposed to exist. That's right. In the process of this chaotic switch, a few 1982 D small date pennies were accidentally struck in copper, when they were supposed to be zinc. Only a handful have ever been found, and they're some of the most valuable Lincoln cents known to exist. So now you're probably wondering, how do you know if your 1982 penny is valuable? First, check the mint mark just below the date. If you see a D, it was made in Denver. No letter? Then it was minted in Philadelphia. Next, look closely at the date style. Some 1982 pennies have bold, thick numbers, those are called large date varieties. Others have thinner, more delicate numbers, the small date. Spotting the difference takes a trained eye, but once you know what to look for, it becomes easier. Then comes the big test, the weight. If you find a 1982 D small date penny and it weighs 3.11 grams, congratulations, you might be holding a coin that is incredibly rare. And the only way to be sure is to have the coin professionally authenticated and graded by a service like PCGS or NGC. But rare varieties aren't the only way 1982 pennies gain value. Even standard copper or zinc pennies can become desirable if they're in perfect condition. Coins that were never circulated, that have no scratches, no wear, and flawless surfaces, can achieve high grades, especially MS-67 or MS-68, and fetch big money at auction. And let's not forget about error coins. During a year like 1982, when so many changes were happening at the mint, mistakes were bound to happen. And collectors love those mistakes. Off-center strikes, double dies, missing letters, weak strikes, all of these can turn a plain penny into a prized collectible. One coin was even found with a visible clash of dies, meaning the coin was struck without a planchet between the dies, leaving ghost-like images of design elements on both sides. That's the kind of mistake that makes headlines. Even proof-like 1982 coins, while not officially made as proofs, sometimes show mirror-like fields and frosted designs, which adds yet another layer of collectability. So why is there so much excitement around this little coin? Because it represents change, both literally and figuratively. It's a coin caught between two worlds, the end of the copper era and the beginning of a new age in U.S. coinage. And when history, rarity, and mystery all meet in a single coin, collectors pay attention, and they're willing to pay big. Now, we've seen many 1982 pennies sell for hundreds, even thousands, depending on condition, metal type, and rarity. But one very special example took the spotlight. It was a stunning, rare variety in exceptional condition, verified and certified by the experts. That coin went on to sell for a life-changing amount of money. So, how much was it? Brace yourself, because that one little penny sold for $43,000, incredible, isn't it? From a forgotten drawer or a jar of loose change to an auction house and then into the hands of a lucky collector. That's the magic of coin collecting, the idea that hidden treasure could be in your pocket right now. So what are you waiting for? Go dig out those old pennies, grab a magnifying glass, and maybe even a small scale. Because you just might be holding on to a coin worth far more than 1 cent. Most people wouldn't think twice about tossing a 1971 penny into a tip jar or dropping it into a coin machine. It's just a penny, right? But what if I told you that some of these seemingly ordinary coins, hiding in change jars, resting at the bottom of drawers, or stuck between couch cushions, could actually be worth more than your monthly paycheck? Or even more than your car? That's right. The 1971 Lincoln penny is one of those coins that proves you don't need silver or gold for something to be valuable. All it takes is the right combination of rarity, history, and condition. And this coin has it all. So let's rewind the clock back to 1971, a year filled with major events. NASA was preparing for Apollo 14, Intel was releasing the world's first microprocessor, and in the background, the U.S. Mint was striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual. These were typical pennies with Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, just like they had been since 1909. But what happened behind the scenes is where the mystery begins. There are 3 primary mint marks to watch for when it comes to 1971 Lincoln pennies: no mint mark for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and S for San Francisco. Each mint has its own quirks, and depending on where the coin was made, its value can vary wildly. Now here's the twist. The U.S. Mint was still producing proof coins in San Francisco during this time. These coins weren't meant for circulation, they were specially struck for collectors, with sharp details and mirror-like finishes. But occasionally, some proof-like coins slip through the cracks and end up where they shouldn't be, right into circulation. When that happens, collectors go crazy, and it's not just proof coins or mint marks that matter. It's also about errors. The 1971 penny is especially known for one legendary error, the double die obverse. Imagine this: you hold up a 1971 penny, and suddenly, you see that the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," or even the date itself appear twice, slightly overlapping. That's not a trick of your eyes, it's a rare minting mistake. During production, if the die imprints the design on the coin twice with a slight shift, it creates a doubled image, and that's what collectors call a double die. These coins are incredibly sought after, and depending on their condition, can command a serious price. But even aside from doubling errors, there are other reasons 1971 pennies attract attention. Take condition, for example. A coin straight from circulation with scratches, discoloration, or wear might not be worth much. But if someone stashed a 1971 penny in a coin collection shortly after minting, preserving it in pristine, uncirculated condition, it becomes an entirely different story. Coin grading services like PCGS or NGC rank coins on a scale from 1 to 70. If a 1971 penny earns a grade of MS 65 or higher, that means it's in near perfect condition, and that's where things start getting valuable. Another thing to look for is the metal composition. Unlike later years, all 1971 pennies were still made of 95% copper. That gives them a solid, reddish tone, and a slightly heavier feel than modern zinc-based pennies. But it also means they're vulnerable to discoloration or damage from age, which makes a mint-fresh copper penny from 1971 even more impressive. Now, while millions of 1971 pennies were made, not all were made equal. Coins with strong strikes, flawless surfaces, rare mint marks, and unique errors are the cream of the crop. They're the ones that get collectors talking. They're the ones that end up behind glass cases at major coin shows. And they're the ones that show up in big-time auctions, and every once in a while, one of these coins hits the spotlight. A single penny that has it all: rarity, perfection, eye appeal, and expert certification. These are the coins that make headlines. Coins that were once lost in a drawer, then discovered and sold for a price that seems almost impossible for a 1-cent coin. So now comes the moment you've been waiting for. How much can one of these rare 1971 Lincoln pennies actually sell for? What's the number that takes it from pocket change to a collector's dream? Well, not long ago, a single, high-grade Lincoln cent from 1971, with a rare error and outstanding condition, went under the hammer in a competitive auction. Collectors knew this wasn't just another coin. This was something extraordinary. And when the final bid was placed, the humble penny, originally worth just 1 cent, had skyrocketed in value. That coin sold for an astonishing $50,000. That's right. $50,000. For a penny. And the best part? There could be more out there. In your change. In your collection. Even in that old jar of coins sitting on the shelf. So next time you see a 1971 penny, don't toss it aside. Take a closer look. Because in the world of coin collecting, the most valuable treasures often come in the smallest, most unexpected packages. Thanks for watching. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more rare coin discoveries, and ring the bell so you never miss a chance to turn pocket change into real profit. Keep checking your coins, your fortune might just be 1 cent away.